to the Orange Bowl down in Miami, Florida. We had an SEC team versus an ACC team, and we just didn't have any two particular teams from both of these conferences here going against each other. We had the University of Georgia going against the Florida State University. The two teams that had iced the grape with the College Football Playoff Committee in what they selected the top four teams. We all know about this. Georgia, on one hand, they are mad because in 30 games, which is 3 seasons, they lost one game. They lost one game, and that one game dropped them from number 1 to number 6. They lost one game in 30 games, and that one game dropped them from number 1 to number 6. Okay, that's the Georgia side of it. The Florida State side of it says 13-0. Winners of the ACC had a loss. They escaped some games, but nevertheless, the outcome was the outcome. They won 13 games. There were 13 games on the schedule. They won 13 of them. They won the ACC, even though it was a lackluster game, a terrible game to watch. They won. They did it with a third-string quarterback. Nevertheless, the CFP says, you're not the same team without your starting quarterback. We can't let you win. We can't let you in. So instead, we'll put you in the Orange Bowl against another team that was left out and feel some type of way about it. Now, how did the game go? This is how the game went. 63-3. That is correct. They got beat by 60. 60, okay? 60 points. University of Georgia dropped 63 on them and only allowed Florida State to get a field goal. Carson Beck played. Milton played. McConkey played. Most of the starters for Georgia played. And they had a list of players that was out, especially on the defensive side. But nevertheless, and plus the best tight end in the game, Bart Ross, he didn't play. He was due to injury. And then on the Florida State side, Maker transferred out. Wide receiver sat out. Defensive tackle, defensive lineman, defensive backs, linebackers sat out. List is pretty much comparable, okay? But you had 29 sitting out for Florida State. There's been a lot of arguments about why they sat out and what was going on and all this other stuff. But the Florida State Seminoles took the field, knowing they was nowhere close to 100% because of opt-outs. And this is what the result we got. Carson Betts, 13 for 18, 203, 2 touchdowns. Milton, 9 carries, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns. Bell had a nice game. Georgia scored 9 touchdowns in this game. 9! And Florida State only kicked a field goal. A field goal. That's all they got is a field goal. Added this whole entire process of field goal. This is what I said after the game of the Orange Bowl. This is exactly what I said. I put this on Facebook. I put it out there. And I got a lot of reaction to this. That first statement, however, says what you all have seen in this Orange Bowl is 2 different philosophies. The Florida State philosophy, they cried about being left out of the college football playoff. Did they deserve to cry? Did they deserve to have a gripe? Sure. Okay, you went 13-0. Nobody's going to blame you for feeling some type of way for being left out because you went 13-0. Okay? But then they put you up against Georgia, the other team that was left out. and shouldn't have been left out. And it's still, you guys opt out. Georgia, on the other hand, led by Kirby Smart, said, all right, you left us out. We only lost one game, but yet you want to leave us out? Fine. That's what we're going to do. Those of you who are hurt, we don't mind you not playing. You're hurt. You got legit injuries. Those of you who are healthy, go out there and let's play. And when we play, we're going to take the field and we're going to send a message. We are going to send a message to everybody in the CFP. Because everybody in the world knows we're doing the best 14. Georgia's one of the best 14s, correct? There's no argument on that. If you do a top 4 teams of this season, Georgia is in your top 4 somewhere. They 1 through 4, and they are not outside of it. If you put them outside of your top 4, then you don't know football then. Okay? Anybody who watches football, sees the season, they know Georgia's one of the best 4 teams. So the fact the committee left them out after losing to Alabama, okay, we're going to prove it to you. One team took what the committee did and said, watch this, and the other one basically quit. Georgia said, watch this. They dropped 63. They dropped 63 on Florida State. 63. Florida State decided not. They showed up, but decided not to show up. What's the point of you even being in the bowl game anyway? And guess what? Kirby Smart had something to say about it. Kirby Smart said, look here, let me say this. Because he was adamant. This is the winning coach who just won by 60. This is what he said in the post game. Let me say something, and I may be wrong here, and maybe this will be a bad soundbite, but people need to see what happened tonight. They need to fix this. It needs to be fixed. It's very unfortunate that they, talking to Florida State, who has a good football team, a good football program, are in the position they're in. Everybody can say it's their fault, it's their own problem. All right. And everybody can say we had our guys and they didn't have theirs. I can listen to all that. But college football has got to decide what they want. And I know things are changing. I know things are going to change next year. You know what? There's going to be still bowl games outside of those. People got to decide what they want and what they really want to get out of it, because it's really unfortunate that those kids, talking about Florida State, that had to play in that game didn't have their full arsenal and affected the game 100%. That's from the coach who won by 60. He won by 60. And this is his coach after the game. Okay? And I agree with everything he said. He wasn't taking shots at Florida State. He was taking a shot at college football. The people, the body government of college football. You know why? Because let's face it. I said what I said about Florida State. I ain't changing that. But the body governments of college football need to understand this. When you put a playoff system in place and you crown for the best 4 teams, how do you find the best 4 teams? How do you find the best 4 teams? I mean, if you allow me, I didn't put it in the slide. I ain't put it in the slide, but I can pull it up because I did find a way to get the criteria for the college football committee. If I can find it real quickly, because y'all want the best 4 teams, and which is a hard thing to try to find. Is the best 4 teams. Usually, until this season, you really didn't have much of a. There's always going to be a team who have a problem, but you really didn't have much of a right, because you can tell. We can actually look and tell who the best 4 teams are for the most part. Until this year, you had a situation on your hand. You had an undefeated team, and you had a back-to-back national champion team who lost 1 game in 30 games. So here it is, right here. Notable selection criteria. CFP selection committee. One thing they look at: conference champion. Florida State conference champion. Georgia not. Strength of schedule or head-to-head competition. Obviously, 2 different conferences. Georgia's strength of schedule is in the top 10. Florida State's strength of schedule is in the 50s. Competitive outcome of common opponents. I don't think Georgia or Florida State played a common opponent. No, actually, no, they played Florida. One team beat the brakes off Florida, and that was right here in Jacksonville, and the other team escaped Gainesville and the swamp. Let you figure out what team did the damage to Florida and what team escaped the Gators in the swamp. Other relative factors such as unavailable of key players, coaches that might have affected a team's performance during the season or likely will affect its postseason performance. That's when Jordan Travis became the reason why Florida State couldn't get it, which is unfortunate for him because he can't help it. He got injured. I mean, and there's an awful injury at that. He can't help that happened to him. So to actually make him the quote unquote reason why is pretty much a bad look for college football because you basically said, yeah, without Jordan Travis, you're not the same team. The fact that he got injured, we can't. Nah, it's not going to be worth it for us. We'll put Texas and Alabama in. Basically, what they said, basically what they did. So, but yeah, that's the criteria for the college football committee. Now we're gonna be interested to see if that criteria stays the same, knowing that we're going to 12 teams next year and not just four. We added eight more teams to this mix. And then, or Curry Smart said, they need to find out what they want to do because you adding 18. There's a lot more board games. And what you're going to do with the games that's not a part of the college football playoff system. Because you got some pretty much how I see it right now, round one, which would be the 4 games, will be at whoever's the higher seeds home place. So number 5 will host 12, 6 will host 11, 7 versus 10, and 8 versus 9. Whoever's the higher seed gets home field advantage. And those teams will move on to the next round and face the top 14 because the top 4 teams get a bye week. How you determine the top 14, that's going to be interesting who gets buys because you have 5 Power 5 where you get down to 4 now. We'll see what the Pac-12 does going forward in the coming months before the next college football season. But basically, you're down to 4 right now. And those 4 conference championships will get buys because they won their conference. You're automatically in if you win your conference. You get your top group of 5 team gets an opportunity. And most of the time or not, they're gonna be on the road, so they're gonna have to pull off an upset at somebody else's place to advance. That's gonna be fun to see. And then we're gonna move on from there, and it's gonna be as simple as that until we get a national champion. So there's more games and whatnot. But yeah, I'm with Kirby Smart 100% because what college football has going on is not it. And other thing they need to fix is this damn transfer portal while I'm at it. Because why people can transfer when we have bowl season going on? Move the season up if that's the case, so that we get football done like at before the new year ends. Okay, because you do not want to compete with the NFL and playoff system. Okay, that's not going to happen because people are going to watch the NFL regardless. But y'all need to do something. College football, y'all got to do something. Like seriously, I said what I said about Florida State. They quit. That's what they did. They crying them on, they complained and all that stuff, and they quit. They showed up and quit, which is stupid. If you're gonna do that, don't even show up to play the damn game because they showed up and quit. We understand the reason why, but guess what? If you're gonna show up, show the hell up. And you was playing Georgia. Ain't like you was playing some nobody who didn't have a chance. You played Georgia, the back-to-back reigning national champions, who got left out because they lost to Alabama. 1 game out of 30. That's why they felt disrespected. And they showed up and kicked your ass. Yeah, basically quit. Ain't no Florida State fan or no party that's defending Florida State can change my damn mind. I said what I said. I'll show you to you again. I said what the hell I said. I'm not backing down. I don't care who dislikes it. Florida State quit. And they got what they deserved. They got their ass whooped. Now, before I take my break, Got a special guest here before we get to the Fiesta Bowl, ladies and gentlemen. The EP of all EPs, the mad scientist himself. He's been on this program before and he's joined me again. Ladies and gentlemen, Cole Johnson. Going on, Mr. Johnson.
Firstly, Happy New Year, sir, and
All
secondly, thank you for inviting me back on your platform. I appreciate it.
right, I was gonna get to the rest about this the Orange Bowl. Anything you would like to say regarding the Orange Bowl that we saw down in Miami, Florida?
Hmm. There are a lot of politicians that are wearing egg on their faces because you actually had these. All right. So we go to Tallahassee, we go onto the campus of Florida State, and we see that, understandably, the whole university's in their feelings about Florida State not being in the CFP yet being undefeated in the Power Five conference. I understand that all in your feelings, and we all understood that. We all understood it. We all saw it. We all grabbed a hold onto it. The problem, though, is that there's advice that you normally get in these situations. It's not what happens to you in adversity; it's how you respond to it. And unfortunately, Florida State as a whole collective responded horribly to it. I mean, they responded as if their feelings were hurt all the way, but hurt all the way. Let's get out of ACC. Let's lobby to our senator and even to our governor of the state so we can probably sue the CFP. And then the coup de grace. You all allow these wonderful teens and early 20s gentlemen to say, you know what? We're not going to take that trip to Miami. We'll sit out. So you had 29 of your players sit out, and then we see this a 63-3 butt whooping given to you by until Monday night the two-time defending national champs in Georgia. Now the messed up thing is Georgia understood the assignment. They wanted to show the CFP, okay, we understood we have one loss, but we still think we're one of the four best teams. Let's show you why. Florida State, on the hand, was like, well, we already went undefeated. You didn't respect us. Well, screw you. We're just going to screw the whole thing out of the whole picture. And now you don't have a leg on which to stand. Now, you can't even have a Ron DeSantis run right on your behalf. You can't even have a Marco Rubio politic on your behalf. You can't even have a Fred Scott politic on your behalf. Why? Because now the CFP can say, remember the excuse we actually gave you that we actually rode hard on in a month ago and saying that we don't believe this team is worth it because, well, we have second and third stringers playing on your team. Well, you had second and third stringers play all throughout that game against a top five ranked team, or I should say top 10 ranked team, but they'll be top five at the end of the year.
That's still disrespectful. We dropped them from 1 to 6.
Yeah. And they got boat raced by 60. Thank you, Florida State. You proved the college football playoff committee's point for them. I know this isn't what you thought because you thought this protest would make us be all in our fields and say, oh, you were undefeated in the Power Five, and oh my, we feel as though you got cheated out of your spot as one of the four best teams to vie for the national championship. Oh no, this is a crime and a travesty. You pitch a protest, and this is what results. So now, when Florida's legislature meets next week, or if you're watching this later, like next week, when they meet this week, you can't have your wonderful governor walk up to the legislation floor and say, you know what, let's push this to law. let's give Florida State $1 million so they can actually sue the college football player committee. Now you're going to have all that floor in Tallahassee laugh like many people on social media did, like many people in media did, and like many in college football did when they saw how you got destroyed. And you didn't have to be. But you all decided to be in your feelings. And instead of choosing to show us all, well, wait a minute, they were wronged, and their performance in Miami showed us why they were wronged. You're like, you proved the college football playoff committee right. Oh well, that's what you get. And now you are crying foul at ACC, which this all could have been avoided because you would have been invited into the playoff because that four playoff team playoff pool could have been expanded to 12. But the conference in which you are affiliated with, even to this moment, they decided to say, not this year. So if you're going to direct your iron somewhere, Florida State fan, Florida State organization, Florida State chancellor, Florida State student, Florida State fan, if you're going to, or Florida State player, if you're going to channel your energy and anger in one direction, go to the Atlantic Coastal Conference.
I think everything you said, I think that is right in here somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I said what I said.
And you were, and there's not a one. It's not one syllable where you were wrong. Not one. Not one. Not a
All right.
one.
Thoughts on what Kirby Smart had to say after the game.
You know, I agree with it. I think it was embarrassing. It you don't, and you're talking to the guy who
They won by 60.
Yeah, they won the game by 60. But you're also talking to the coach of a guy who has led his program the 2 previous years to holding that crystal ball, holding that crystal football. And so the thought process is when you get to the bowl season, put your best foot forward. And he actually witnessed on the field a team that didn't put their best foot forward. And as a competitor, that is highly insulting. Highly. And it does put a stain on college football. But it's not his fault, and it's not Georgia's fault. And it's not even the CFP's fault either. This actually lies on the lap of Florida State. They decided to basically, what's the saying? Take their ball and go home. Well, congratulations. In the 13 games you played, you ran the table. That's great. But you played a 14th game and didn't want to represent your college.